Welcome to the SaaS AdLab podcast, where we bring to you the stories of SaaS founders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs. My name is Luis. I'm the owner and founder of Fantôm agency, a digital marketing agency specializing in scaling SaaS companies. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Jesse. He is the co-founder of GeniusLink. And first of all, thank you so much for making the time to be here. I know it's been a little bit of a wild ride to get this actually in the books, but we finally were able to make it happen. So before I get into anything else, I do want to mention that Jesse was very, very kind to provide anyone that's listening to the podcast. We're a 2-month free trial. Typically, it's a 14-day trial. So he went ahead and pretty much quadrupled that for us. So thank you so much for that. And now, why don't you tell us a bit more about yourself and kind of how GeniusLink came to be, like the ideas behind it and how everything happened?
Yeah, sure. Hope you're comfortable there. It's been quite the adventure. The story goes about a little over 10 years ago. I was running a series of websites that took soundtracks from extreme sports films, and I was using the iTunes and Amazon affiliate program to monetize those. Mm-hmm. And after a few years, I saw this nice hockey stick growth in traffic, but unfortunately, my revenue was growing really slowly. My aha moment was when I realized that my traffic had really evolved, and a lot of it was now international. And my oh no moment came shortly afterwards, when I realized that the gist was I was sending all those international users to a broken link, more or less. The iTunes store is very, since it's digital products, it's very black and white in regards to where you can buy. Amazon.com was really focused on selling to the US store or to US residents, etc. So when I was sending everyone to Amazon.com or everyone to the US iTunes store, there's people from Germany, France, etc. just were not getting that experience. They weren't able to shop, and I wasn't able to earn. So I kind of led into this whole thought of, well, maybe these links should be smart and guide people to the best place to buy based off their geography or device or language, etc. So this was back in 2008, 2009. Okay. Ended up kind of taking a little bit of a sidestep away from this project and actually wrote a book about the iTunes affiliate program. Took all my notes from the websites I was going off of. The iTunes affiliate program was definitely my big driver of revenue, but just had no documentation. So I figured out a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. Wrote this book, sent this book off to a woman I'd found on LinkedIn that I thought managed the affiliate program. I thought she was going to be really excited about, getting all these notes about their program. And I got a cease and desist email back. Ended up, hopping on a call with her. It took us a little bit. We got things resolved, but the gist was I wouldn't publish my book until they had a chance to review it. A few weeks later, they offered me a job to actually be the global program manager for their affiliate program. So
that's
took
awesome.
It was crazy to go from essentially kind of working on nights and weekends, being I was a whitewater rafting guide, spending a good chunk of my time in Colorado and then Costa Rica. Kind of going from that to Cupertino and having a cubicle and a commute.
Right, but not just that, but also the fact that you kind of went on from being on their blacklist to them taking you on as part of their team. So I think that's a pretty cool story right there.
Thank you. It was a great experience. I drank the apple Kool-Aid years and years ago, but it was an amazing experience to work on the iTunes marketing team, really kind of see their affiliate program from the inside. Obviously, I was a big fan. It was making me money from my website, so being able to kind of see it. But one of the things I realized looking at it from the inside is that this problem that I had encountered, I was actually making it worse. We expanded not only the iTunes footprint, but the iTunes affiliate program almost threefold while I was working there. And at the same time, I was watching Amazon kind of run into the same issues where they would have country-specific storefronts or region-specific storefronts, and then storefront-specific affiliate programs. And that works awesome when all your traffic's from one country or region, but like my soundtrack websites, that's just not the case, really. You get people from all over the world that want to consume these websites, even if they're in Germany, they're still going to US websites, they're still reading websites in English, etc. So after a couple of years, said goodbye to the comfy corporate life, and we started pushing hard on GeniusLink. I moved up to Seattle. My best friend, college roommate, was at Microsoft. Convinced him that we could build something cool, and it's been a wild ride ever since. And here we are today.
So, talking about like kind of how all these things came to happen, and you being able to spend time with people in Cupertino, with people on the iTunes team and Apple team, and all those, pretty like heavy hitters. Were you able to make any sort of connections with people inside of that company that could later on turn into something else for GeniusLink?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to be very black and white about it, right? You can't have competing interests. You got to be focused on it. But that being said, me really pouring my heart and soul into my job at iTunes allowed me to make some great connections, and people kind of saw the character of who I was, etc. You don't lose friends when you change jobs. I left on great terms. I'm still, very much on a great terms with my old boss. She's amazing. So yeah, networking is always a super important aspect. Networking inside of your job is incredibly important. You may leave your Rolodex when you leave a job, but you don't leave your LinkedIn. So it's always relatively easy to come and find those connections. Of course, you have to be ethical. You have to make sure that you're not shooting yourself in the foot. You're not doing things that aren't cool. When Apple's paying you, you need to be working on Apple stuff. When Apple's not paying you, when you're past that job, then it's okay to focus on those things. But yeah, it was an incredible experience from the networking side. It was an incredible experience from just what I learned. But yeah, without that time at Apple, without that networking, those people that I knew, the company would be in a very different place. Absolutely.
That's really cool. It's kind of like everything just kind of fell in its own place, and then you took it from there, which is awesome. Now, when talking about, Genius Link and essentially the product that you're putting out and who you're able to service and who can benefit from this, are you pretty much mainly looking for enterprise level deals, or do you work with, maybe like a freelance marketer could be using Genius Link, or who is essentially the perfect customer for you? Like if you could pretty much put, your finger on someone, who would it be?
So we love the enterprise deals that come through. Unfortunately, they're slow. There's not a ton of them, et cetera. They take a long time to put together. But those are great. I'd much rather have 10 clients that I can spend a ton of time with, know really well, and support the full team. Unfortunately, that didn't work for us. I don't have a great great background in sales. It was really hard for us to kind of go out, quote unquote, hunt whales, hunt elephants. So while we spent time doing that, and we started getting hungry, we started to starve a bit. So we ultimately found a way to hunt rabbits, hunt squirrels, hunt deer, while we learned how to hunt elephants. So for better or worse, our client base is incredibly diverse these days. And there's pros about that and there's cons about that. It's awesome that it's diverse, so that if one group kind of disappears, there's other groups that kind of fill in. On the flip side, it makes the marketing message really, really challenging. So we found that, we can absolutely support a wide variety of clients, but we really kind of focus on a specific type as far as our outbound and our paid advertising, paid marketing goes. So that was kind of a political roundabout way. I was not specific in my answer there.
So how do you go about, kind of essentially servicing each type of customer when you have a really big, enterprise level deal, where you have the smaller, maybe like a 5-team kind of deal where it's a smaller in-house team doing everything compared to like a huge team with a lot of different people? How would the onboarding and that sort of thing go differently? For example, I think, most companies, I would say, tend to have like a sweet spot where they're like comfortable and they want to go after those. And you mentioned that essentially ideally would be, your enterprise level deals. But when you have like such a wide range of different people that could join, how do you then deal with learning how to onboard all these different tiers?
That's such a great question. I do not have a great answer. We're definitely evolving. That's something we're very much learning. So there's two sides of it, right? There's kind of before the account's created and kind of after the account's created. After the account's created, everyone gets put into a hopper as far as support goes. And I'm a huge believer in support. I think that was the thing that really kind of helped me excel at my Apple job, is just really focusing in. If someone wants support, it means that they've leaned in, they're actively engaged. The sooner you can give them support, the more likely you're going to make them successful. So I'm a huge fan of making sure that people get the time, effort, energy. If they're a 1-person team, if they're a 5-person team, if they're a 5,000-person team. Granted, we do prioritize the people that are paying us more, et cetera. So if there's 10 people on the hopper for support, we will definitely get to our biggest clients first. That being said, everyone gets the time of day, everyone gets a response. I'm a huge believer in that aspect. From the front side, kind of before the account sign up or really kind of the onboarding, we don't have a perfect solution for that. And I feel like, I listen to a ton of podcasts, I read a lot, and it seems like every customer is a little bit different. So that makes me feel a little bit better about this, but I would like to hear your thoughts afterwards on this. But we've essentially allowed our clients to self-select on that to some degree. We used to have 3 different plans, and kind of based off what plan level you chose, it included certain amounts of onboarding. If you were the lowest plan, that was kind of a self-serve model. There really wasn't any onboarding. Of course, you got support, but there wasn't any onboarding. You had the largest plan, that we made sure there was some onboarding time. Not everyone would sign up for it. It was kind of as you need it. we went from 3 plans down to 1 plan, ran for 1 plan for 18 months or so, and recently moved to 2 plans. So now we have a self-serve and we have a business plan. If you sign up for the self-serve, again, we're happy to support you as much as possible, but we're not actively going to help you onboard, etc. If you do sign up for the business plan, then we are going to make kind of time and effort to help onboard you. And we see some really interesting things. We've had Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies go for the self-serve plan because they just want to play with it. They want to poke at it. They don't want to be annoyed. They want to run their own tests by themselves. Then we also have the 5-people team that's willing to pay the business plan, that kind of the enterprise level cost, so that they can get active help, making sure they're set up to begin with. So you choose, you the client decide on how much love you want from us by choosing how much you want to pay us. And that's seeming to work relatively well. There's obviously some kinks to work out, but that's where we're at right now in the evolution.
What do you think is making that difference between, a smaller team willing to actually invest in something that is bigger maybe than them, if you want to call it that, and someone that is in an enterprise level that is kind of going a plan that isn't necessarily what would be ideal for them? Do you think it's more so like that they assume that they're going to need that extra help, or that they think that they just want to try it out beforehand and then having the ability to obviously upgrade if needed?
I think it's where does it fit in their priorities, right? If priorities and resources, right? If figuring out how to make your link smarter is a hair on fire issue, you need to make sure it works for this campaign, and you have money to pour at it, then yes, you instantly jump up to the business plan. You want someone to hold your hand. If it's not super important, if it's kind of a pet project that you're poking at, and yes, you have a lot of resources, then maybe you'll start with the lower plan, play with it a little bit, get your questions in order, see where the roadblocks are, and then kind of maybe move up, upgrade the plan, or kind of reach out for extra support. So I'd really say, based off your resources, based off of what priority is, helps dictate when it makes sense to bring on or to pay for the resources of onboarding, et cetera. That being said, and this is a little bit of a tangent, as much as we try to ensure that there's some correlation between the money we spend in onboarding and the money that we're going to get as far as revenue, I really strongly feel that onboarding shouldn't be completely an operations cost. It should be a little bit of a marketing piece as well. The more people that see you demo your product, even if they're not going to use it, or maybe they're not going to use it extensively, those people putting that seed in the back of their head because we are unique enough, that's paid off in spades as well. We've had clients that we've onboarded, didn't really go anywhere, but then a person that saw the onboarding move to a new job, remembered it, and then brought us in. So it's it's kind of a guerrilla marketing technique to make sure that you're doing as many demos as possible. But of course, you have to kind of put some constraints around that as well, because a good demo is definitely time intensive.
100%. And now that we're talking a little bit more about kind of education on onboarding, how are you currently doing that? Does, I guess, how do you get people to understand a little bit more about how Genius Link works? Because I think that it's even though there are, I believe there are quite a few different companies that do this now, how do you kind of, first of all, differentiate yourself from everyone else out there that is doing some sort of smart link tracking? And essentially, how are you able to explain that to your audience?
Yeah, again, great questions. And it's something we're definitely evolving. We're definitely learning. From the differentiation, that's a challenge for sure. It's been really interesting watching this space evolve. Again, we've been in it for nearly a decade now. And we see a new competitor show up once a quarter, a real competitor show up out once a quarter. And my list of competitors continues to get bigger and bigger that we kind of want. And I think that's, it's scary. It's always scary having people that have to compete with. But I think it also is really,
it's good.
Yeah, it validates that we're in a space that's growing. And I definitely believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. So the more people that know that a quote unquote intelligent link, a dynamic link, provides more value than a bit.ly link, the better off we all are. So that's one piece. But you're absolutely right. There is an education game. But a lot of people think that a link is static. A lot of people, a little bit tangent here. The web has evolved so drastically over the last 20 years. Marketing technology has followed that and evolved so drastically over the last 20 years. Links have not evolved. Most people think that link technology is moving from a short link and a bit.ly short link, and that was awesome of bit.ly to kind of push that space a decade ago. But there's so much more you can do with a link these days. So that education piece is really important, and it's something we push on day in, day out. And it's a challenge. We don't have a great medium for it, right? Our outbound is really focused around education. We put a lot of time into our knowledge base. We put a lot of time into the messaging, the onboarding sequence for our clients, the kind of cadence of what little tidbits of information we can drop in their inbox or messaging, et cetera. So we have not cracked that nut. I think we're getting better at it, but it's definitely, we have not nailed it. There's so much that goes onto it. It's so nuanced that, yeah, hopefully we're getting better, but there's a long way to go.
Well, now that you have this additional channel, why don't you explain a little bit more for the people that are listening? How does Genius Link essentially work? And for someone to really understand, I guess, what differentiates you from something like Bitly?
That's a great question. So a link is a link, but not really. Bitly is an amazing tool. Again, hats off to Bitly. They're definitely the gorilla in this space. Bitly is a static link, which means that everyone goes to the same destination. And that works incredibly well for content. That sucks for commerce. In commerce, you want to make sure that if someone leans in, has that intent to buy, clicks on that link, you remove as much hurdles, as much friction as possible. Conversion rate is directly correlated to friction. If you have someone coming from Germany and you send them to Amazon.com, it's a good chance that that sale is not going to go through. It's the wrong language, it's the wrong currency, shipping is going to be slow, there may be taxes involved, etc. But instead, if you send that person from Germany to Amazon.de, where it's in German, it's in euros, they can use their local Prime account, all the VAT is figured into the price, there's probably free shipping, etc., you're more likely to convert on that. So in the world of commerce, paying attention to geography, paying attention to language, paying attention to device, etc., helps eliminate that friction. And that's really kind of our sweet spot, our focus. We are, quote unquote, smarter links for commerce. We want to help people sell things. We want to help marketers do their job better. We want to take all those web technologies that they've been relying on for the last 20 years and pack them into a link that they can use anywhere and that they'll hopefully use everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the features, like some of the coolest features that your customers essentially go for when they're actually in the platform? Like, what is one of the things that you see are being used the most?
Excellent question. And again, comes back to one of the problems we have, where we have such a diverse client range that for different clients, their different features are lifesavers for them. Two of the things that I really have been getting super excited about is, one is that we can add pixels into a link. So if you're going from YouTube to Amazon or from Twitter to eBay, you can still set a retargeting pixel and you can still build a custom audience even though you're not going to your website. So that means you can still get the really insightful analytics, and you can also not lose track of that client as you send them into a third party. So you can do the retargeting, you can kind of build them, you can put them on a list, etc. You're not essentially losing them, which is a common fear. The second one is this technology we've been building out called choice pages. And a choice page is essentially a mobile optimized landing page that allows you to showcase a single product, provide multiple different retailers to buy from. And we definitely have the thesis that while Amazon is killing it in the US with about 50% market share, that still means that approximately 50% of e-commerce sales are happening outside of Amazon. Mm-hmm. And that's a massive optimization that can be made. So if you're promoting a pair of shoes, yes, you should definitely link to Amazon, but there might be a few other retailers as well, Foot Locker, REI, etc. You might want to include there. So if you can give consumers a little bit of a choice, yes, you're introducing extra click, but giving a little bit of choice should help you improve your conversion rate, improve your bottom line, and just make your customer a little bit happier in the long run. So that's two of about 15 different features that we offer. Now again, we do the different targeting by location, device, language. We do auto affiliation. We do product translation. We do stuff with UTM, etc. But yeah, again, those are two of the features I like, is the pixels and the choice pages. I got to stop myself. I can stuff for hours.
No, you're good, man. And really, like, being a marketer myself, like, I understand, what kind of things you have to deal with if you're not using some sort of smart link tracking. And it's really, really cool that essentially you could just only need one link and it could take care of everything for you, which is, and also for like e-com, like you said, like sending someone to Amazon or something like that, you would lose pretty much all sort of tracking if you weren't using something like this. You being able to retarget those people can be very, very beneficial, especially for people in the e-com space that are, having most of their sales come from Amazon. So I think that's awesome. Now, when it comes to actually growing the company and really, scaling it and getting to where you are now, what would you say has been the most challenging thing to overcome?
Again, I guess education probably, realizing that there are pain points or challenges with traditional linking technology, and that there's solutions for it. It took us a long time to help people understand that don't just use a straight Amazon link, use a Genius link, because there's all these other programs, or again, you can set the retargeting pixels, whatever it may be. So education has traditionally been one of the biggest challenges, that once people realize that they have this problem, they're missing out on this money from the affiliate program, from whatever, they're much more eager to dive in and to learn the platform and start using it. But one of our biggest challenges still is, hey, YouTuber, you have these Amazon links in your description. It looks like you have got a pretty global audience. You need to be doing something about that. And again, it's easier now to kind of get past that, but most people don't know it's a problem. So it takes a bit to get.
Or they don't think that there's a solution out there. So again, it comes down to the education piece, making them aware of, kind of what they don't know. And what about internally as a company? What were some of the things that you've struggled with most as one of the founders? Is it delegating things to people? Is it, kind of knowing who to bring on as a team member?
For me, it's been knowing when to keep my hands out of things. I love tinkering with stuff. That's why we built the company. I was fascinated with links, breaking apart links, playing with things. My best friend, our CTO, the co-founder, is a great engineer. I loved sitting by his side, kind of, oh, let's do this and this and this, and, kind of those pieces of working closely together. So as the team has grown, it's been really hard for me to take a step back and let the team do what they're good at. Everyone that I work with is way better at doing the stuff than I am, but it's just hard for me not to be involved because I was so passionate and love those pieces. So it's, it's hard moving from an individual contributor to a manager. That's, for me personally, been the biggest challenge. I really like getting involved in those projects, but not the most efficient thing. I need to focus on the CEO things.
Mm-hmm. If you could take anything and kind of, just do it, if anything that was really possible, what would the thing be that you would do for Genius Link?
Oh, that's so hard. Again, one of the best things about the early days is I could wear so many different hats. I could be so involved in so many different things. Quick story here. So again, really enjoyed my time at Apple with iTunes. It was fascinating to be there. One of the things that was really frustrating for me is it was a slow feedback loop. There was one project in particular we took 6 months to do, and it resulted in a few pixels being moved around. And that was so frustrating for me. But that was just kind of, that's what corporate America is used to. That's unfortunately kind of the bits and pieces of it. I love being able to bust my butt on some project and, do the different aspects of that and see the value of that within days, if not weeks. That short feedback cycle is it's like crack for me, right? It gets me so excited to go do the next thing. I just want to, I want to build on that. I want to keep using those positive feedback loops to just kind of keep building that momentum. So when I can have my finger on the pulse and make real changes in near real time, that's really exciting. That gets me really fired up.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And this is going to be a little bit more of a personal question. And just I guess be as vulnerable as possible. But what is something that you're not very good at?
There's a lot of things I'm not very good at. I have a hard time taking feedback I don't want to hear. I think I'm getting better at that, but that one of my first startups that definitely doomed us. I have a hard time delegating. I'm not a great manager. I have a hard time focusing. I definitely have shiny object syndrome. Yeah, there's I have a number of faults. But I think one thing I am relatively good at is being fairly transparent with the team, so the team knows where I have issues and can kind of help correct me. There's a lot of managing up in regards to dealing with me, which is not probably the ideal situation, but it works, I think, relatively well. I don't see anyone in the background shaking their head.
That was going to be my next question is, now that I asked, what's something you're not very good at, what's something that you're really good at, aside from one, being able to pretty much mess with things and wanting to be in there and working, for long hours on something that you're very passionate about, and also being very transparent. aside from those two things, what is something that you know and you're very proud of that you're able to accomplish?
Yeah, those two are definitely, I think, kind of my, if I had superpowers, those would be the two superpowers. Outside of that, it's probably endurance, just being able to keep going, keep pushing. We're a bootstrap company. We've, again, been around for a decade now. We've had some crazy highs and some crazy lows. And I think just having the fortitude, the grit to just keep going through some of those lows. We've had some incredibly frustrating situations that have nearly brought the whole house down. But just being able to kind of be the cheerleader and keep pushing people forward, just showing up day in, day out to put a smile on my face and show the team that we're still doing some pretty cool stuff, even though it feels like the world is falling in on us.
Right.
I think is probably next on that list of superpowers, if you want to call it a superpower.
Now, you mentioned, the obviously the lows that pretty much any startup, any company is going to have. How does GDPR play a role in those sweat links? And I assume that was maybe part of one of those lows that you thought that maybe things were going to fall apart and stuff like that.
So yeah, GDPR was not a low.
Okay.
GDPR was actually a project that I really kind of enjoyed. It was something, again, that I could kind of step back, I could really focus in on. It was a project that was perfect for me to be curious, get my hands dirty, that only I was really qualified for as far as the team went. So I spent probably close to 2 months just doing crazy research, organizing all my notes. I read as many articles as I could, came up with a game plan, presented it to the team. They gave me the thumbs up to go hire some really expensive lawyers, worked with some incredibly talented lawyers to figure out exactly what we needed to do. We did it, we implemented it, dealt with the privacy policy stuff, dealt with the Privacy Shield stuff. And all said and done, it was a bit of a sprint for the engineers, which they always complain about. But I think they really do enjoy a little bit of a rush.
Right.
But we got May 25th last year. We got the pieces out. I was really proud of the team for doing
That's
that.
awesome.
Fundamentally, I think GDPR is the right thing. There is some frustrations, especially with pixeling, right? You need to get consent before you can set a pixel. When you're trying to be as transparent and behind the scenes as possible for your clients, as a link should be. It's really those things kind of contradict each other. But no, GDPR was a good thing. It was a fun project. Frustrating at times, but I thought it was a great opposite. So almost the exact opposite of what you said.
That's great news. And as far as marketing goes, what have been some of the best strategies and tactics that have been implemented to growing Genius Link?
Again, it really goes back to education and just taking what I know and getting it out there and helping people, whether they use our platform or not. Just making sure that people are using the Amazon affiliate program and being compliant, making sure they're not leaving money on the table, making sure that their links aren't being stupid. Again, with or without our platform, that means a lot to me. I like to see people succeed. So just putting myself out there in the various mediums, the various forums to kind of help solve those problems, I think has ultimately been one of the best ways this has worked out. Even, onboarding, right? We continue to have people that were, worked at top clients that leave their job after 3 or 4 years and start at other related companies, coming to us. And that's, again, I think an education piece because we spent time early on really helping them out. So guerrilla marketing as far as education. Go ahead.
Are there any channels or platforms that you prefer most or you've seen the most success with?
No one specific channel. Again, you're talking to the CEO that is runs a marketing tool company, but is not a great marketer. I've never been a good marketer. So if you were asking our CMO the same question, he would probably say something very different. We're finding some pretty good success with paid campaigns via Google. The original bread and butter. It's taken some time to figure that out. A year to kind of optimize it, but we have a pretty good client acquisition cost and retention rate with those.
That's awesome. And as far as one piece of advice that you would give to pretty much any sort of SaaS founder or someone that is interested in starting their own company, what would that be?
So one of the things that was explained to me early on that I think is still really relevant is that there's really two things you can't mess with anymore. And I guess this is changed a little bit with Elon Musk breaking all the rules, but time and gravity was kind of the things that were explained to me, right? You can't mess with gravity, so focus on time. When you start a company and you have time on your side, things work out a lot better. When time is against you, it can be incredibly challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So I would strongly encourage people to dabble in what they want to do first while they have a full-time job, or at least some way to pay the bills, make sure that their insurance is covered, etc. That's time is for you, right? You have as much time as you want. Nights and weekends, it sucks that you're putting all your time into your business, but you don't have to hit certain deadlines. You don't have to meet payroll by a certain date. Time is 100% on your side. As soon as you make that plunge and quit your day job to focus on your startup, if you're not profitable, if you're not cash flowing at that point, time is against you. You only have so much time to get to that next level. Granted, that stress can be a huge motivator and you can really kind of push things forward. But I'm a firm believer in the side hustle first, just so you can really fully understand your market, your place, your position, et cetera, before you really pull the trigger and dive in.
That's awesome. That's great advice. And as far as SaaS companies go, do you have any specific one or multiple ones that you kind of look up to that you see as something that you'd maybe want to get to? Obviously not the product or anything, but just the level that they're at.
So the leadership at Intercom, I've met Des Traynor a handful of times. I think he's an incredibly brilliant guy. Really appreciate every presentation I've seen. Was at SaaStr this year and saw some great presentations. I think it was their COO that put on one of my favorites. So huge fans of the team there. Not a huge fan of their product these days, but definitely I think that there's some really smart people there doing some really smart things. And then also, Jason Limkin, the grandfather of SaaS. I really appreciate his insights as well.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And as far as books, do you like to read?
Oh, absolutely. I love to read. I have a hard time reading, as I typically, it's late at night or whatnot. By the time I actually get to books, I tend to fall asleep. But books on tape are kind of my go-to. We have dogs in the office that need multiple walks a day. The commute in and out. It's a great time to just plug in that book on tape and or audiobook, I guess, as they're called now.
Yeah.
And just kind of work through those. In particular, this is probably your next question, but The Hard Thing About Hard Things is probably the best business book I've ever read. And it's I've actually read that one from start to finish once and listened to the audiobook twice now. Great.
That's awesome. And last question, Jesse, do you have any questions for me?
I would love to know how obviously you're working, you're doing a podcast. It seems to be to catch it on awesomely. So congrats on that. But
thank you.
We talked a lot about education. What have you found as a great medium for education? Is it podcast? Is it posts on Medium, your blog? How do you get in front of your ideal client and help educate them?
I think there's a lot of different channels where you can do this and a lot of different formats, whether it's podcasting, whether it's blogging, whether it's vlogging. So anything that is able to essentially get a message out into the masses is going to be able to educate. And obviously, there's people that like to learn in different ways. You have the visual learners, you have the auditory learners, and then you have, I forgot the third one.
Sure, yeah.
But essentially, everyone kind of does their own thing. And this is something that you can take from someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Where they have all these different content. And the cool thing about him is that he repurposes that. Like he has one big long video that he has, and then he cuts it up into different content pieces and just distributes it throughout all of his social media channels. And what really happens is he has people go to blogs and watch videos that kind of educate. So I think that SaaS companies can really learn from that kind of strategy where they have, for example, let's say that you have a demo video and maybe it's a pre-recorded demo, or you just had a demo that you recorded with one of your clients. And really essentially what you're doing is explaining how to use the product and, all the benefits, features, and stuff like that. What you can do is break up that video into different pieces that kind of walk through everything. And you can leverage, things like Facebook advertising and things like that, where you can push that video to thousands of people at really the same time while they're learning about the product. You can actually drive them down a funnel literally online. You don't even have to have like landing pages or anything like that, but you're just creating this kind of momentum with all your content, where by the time that you actually show them, a landing page that is more so calling them to actually sign up, they already know how to use the product. So it's all kind of like an onboarding process online. And by the time they go to the website, they know what they're going to get into. They know how to use the product. They know the benefits, the features. And you can also really, hit on objections that people have. A lot of the times people don't trust the company, especially when it's new. So you want to make sure that you kind of provide some sort of social proof, right? So you have, you might be showing, really ads on how to use a product, but is it something that other people like? Is it something that people actually use? So what you do is you can follow up with them, like retargeting, right? So what you would do is follow up with those people with different ads that are kind of hitting on it specifically on those objections that they have, whether it's that they don't necessarily trust the company. So you hit them with social proof ads, and so on. So you kind of like going after everything that they would use to say no to your product and give them a reason why it's right. And then when they're ready, they kind of have gone through that whole funnel. They really don't have any other reason not to say no. And if they do, then that's when you kind of give them that extra incentive that is usually monetary, where you give them a 15% off or whatever it may be to actually get them to sign up. And then it comes down to just all your onboarding pieces, where it would be, more education that maybe has not been touched on in those other videos or content pieces that you're pushing.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for being on here, Jesse. It was really a pleasure having you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Of course. And where can people find you online?
So obviously the website, geni.us, contact form there. I try to stay off Facebook as much as possible, but I'm definitely have a bit of a presence there. And then of course, Twitter, at Jesse Lakes.
Awesome. And for anyone who's watching, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can listen to the podcast on pretty much any major streaming platform. And thank you so much for being on here today. It was really, really fun. And just make sure that you go out there and do something, whether you're side hustling or you want to start right off, from scratch and get your feet wet and whatever it may be. Just do something great that you're going to enjoy, and make sure you love whatever it is that you're doing. So thank you so much for being on here, Jesse, and we'll keep in touch.
Awesome. Cheers.